They lied to us. And because they did, this is the end result. Losing yourself.
They said just be nice and keep the peace.
Hey family, hey. So today,
But I've been given till there's nothing left. Smiling on the outside, but inside.
I titled the name of this video, They Lied to Us, the People-Pleasing Trap. How to stop being a people pleaser. And the reason why I decided to do this video is because this is me. For the last 44 years that I have been on this earth, I have lived this life. And somewhere along the way, I decided that service to others is what makes my spirit jump. And in the midst of serving others, I became this so-called people pleaser. The thing is that we are all a part of the trap that is the people pleaser. And I know you might say, oh, I'm not a people pleaser, or whatever the case may be, but if you think about it, we've been taught since we've been here on this earth to do exactly that, to be a people pleaser. We had to please our parents, and once we got grown and gone, we had to please our employers. And if we didn't do the things that we wanted to do, then we had to do the things that they wanted us to do. And therefore, we fall into this circle of people pleasing, because it's like a stick. On one end, you're the people pleaser. On the other end, you're being selfish. And oh no, please, let's not talk about being selfish, because that means that you're pleasing yourself. So if I don't do what you want me to do, then I'm being selfish. So I'm supposed to do what you want me to do, which is being a people pleaser. And the crazy part about it is you got to choose one side. Either I'm going to be a selfish person and please myself, or I'm going to be a people pleaser and please you. And that's how it is. And that's the reason why I say we are all in this trap of people pleasing. And the crazy part about it is, if you are the person that says, no, that's not me, I'm not a people pleaser, then you're on the other side, which says, I'm not a people pleaser. I do my own thing. I care about my own feelings, or whatever the case may be. But then you have people who are around you. And if they don't do what you want them to do, which is people pleasing, then you're still stuck in this trap of people pleasing, if you're on one side or the other. And so here I am, and I tell you, it has not been fun. It has not been a fun journey to be a people pleaser. I have lost friends. I have lost family members behind not being able to care enough about my own feelings that I had to care about what other people's feelings were. And the crazy part about it is, it's nobody's fault but my own. And the crazy part about that is, it's nobody else's fault but your own. We allow this thing to happen. And sometimes you don't even realize that that's what's going on. Now, the crazy part is that you, depending on the type of person that you are, if you start caring more about how you feel, then God will bring all of the things that you want to you. You don't have to please other people just because you think that they may not like you anymore. Or you feel like, well, if I don't do this, then they're going to be upset with me. Okay? I've learned that lesson. I've had time and time again where I have bent over backwards, giving the shirt off of my back to people. And in the end, they still end up giving me their you-know-what to kiss. So, in the end, I'm still messed up. So, if that is going to be the destination, why not go ahead and peel off the Band-Aid before you get to that and care enough about your feelings to be able to say no? I was a yes woman. And the crazy part about it is, that's not healthy. That's not healthy. And I'm learning that. I'm learning that. And I put together this video for those of you all who are trying to find yourself. And the clip that you've seen when the video first started is the end result of being a people pleaser. You lose yourself. And I have lost myself. But trust me, I'm getting back. Everything that the devil took from me, I'm getting everything back and more. So, I don't want to go too deep into my story, because trust me, this is a journey and you'll be hearing a lot more. So, trying to get my nerves together, trying to say the right thing, trying to make sure that this video will help the future me, that this video will help those of you all who are going through the same exact thing, that you have lost yourself. And it's time to get yourself back, because people need you. The right people need you. And I'm not saying don't be a service to others, because I absolutely love people. I absolutely love people. And I still will do for people. I have not lost that. That is who I am. That is what makes my spirit jump for joy. But I'm going to do it God's way. And not because you come and asking me for stuff. And that is the one thing that I have to learn how to do. Is stop trying to be the hero in everybody's story. That's who I am. That's who I was. That's who I was. And I'm learning. So with that being said, I am going to get the help of Mr. Chad. And y'all, I named him. Chat GPT. I named him Chad because I don't know why I gave him the name Chad. I don't know. But I absolutely love this AI. It is taking the world by storm right now. And if you are not using ChatGPT, then why not? It's easy. It makes it easy. It makes doing videos so easy. It makes life a whole lot easier. So with that being said, I'm gonna put together a video. Oh yeah, and just for this video, I am also creating a song to go along with the video. So if you watched my last video talking about depression, which you can find that here, or in the cars or wherever it's going to be at, it will also be linked down below the last video that I did. I talked about doing ChatGPT as well. So, oh yeah, I was talking about the music. So in that last video, I created a song to go along with the video, you know, to go along with Fight Back, How to Beat Depression. And that video, that the song that's in that video is stuck in my head. And I created it just from the video that I did with ChatGPT. I'm like, I want to have some music that go along with what I was saying in the video. And so in all of my videos, that's pretty much what I'm going to be doing, incorporating the song to go along with what the topic is of my videos, because why not? You know, it's new technology, you might as well use it. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully this video gives you some type of inspiration. As you can see, I like to ramble. And I'm trying to get better at not rambling. So this is the reason why I'm using Chad to help me out. So with that being said, please listen to my boy Chad as he's going to tell you how to how to stop being a people pleaser. And also pay attention to the song that's playing in the background, because it's sweet, y'all. It's sweet. Why not? Anyway, here's Chad.
Thank you, Shonda, for your input. You are awesome. Hey everyone, welcome back to Rockin' with Shonda. Today we're diving into a huge topic that so many of us struggle with, being a people pleaser. For so long, we've been taught that putting others first and being the nice guy or the nice girl is what makes us valuable. But let's be real, they lied to us. The truth is, people pleasing doesn't really serve others, and it certainly doesn't serve us. People-pleasing is more than just being helpful or considerate. It's the habit of constantly putting others' needs above your own, often to avoid conflict, gain approval, or just because we're afraid of being seen as selfish. And here's the kicker. It actually drains us emotionally, mentally, and sometimes even physically. I remember a time in my own life where I thought that saying yes to everything would make me more likable, that it would help me keep the peace and be a good person. But instead, I ended up feeling exhausted, resentful, and even disconnected from myself. Does this sound familiar to anyone? If it does, you're not alone. So how do we even get here? People-pleasing often starts early. Maybe we learned from a young age that our worth came from making others happy, or we grew up thinking that avoiding conflict meant keeping the peace. Society also puts a lot of pressure on us to fit into a certain nice mold, especially for those of us who tend to be empathetic or sensitive. And while helping others can be great, here's where the lie comes in. When we focus solely on others and neglect our own needs, we're actually doing everyone a disservice. Think about it. People-pleasing often leads us to say yes when we want to say no, to smile when we feel like screaming, and to sacrifice our own happiness just to keep someone else comfortable. But let's ask ourselves, how much of that is really helping? Are we actually showing up as our best selves if we're drained, resentful, and exhausted? Probably not. And it took me a while to learn this, but once I did, it was a game changer. Alright, so how do we break free from this trap? Here are some steps to help you stop people-pleasing but still be of service to others. And most importantly, to yourself. Step 1. Learn to say no. Start small. Practice saying no in situations where the stakes are low. You don't have to explain yourself. Just a polite, "I can't right now," is enough. With time, this will become second nature, and you'll start feeling empowered rather than guilty. I once read a story about a woman who spent years saying yes to every family obligation until she missed an opportunity to pursue a dream job. She realized that, in trying to make everyone else happy, she was denying herself a chance to grow. Her first no was the hardest, but it ended up freeing her to create a life that felt authentic and true. Step 2. Set boundaries. Boundaries are key. They're not about shutting others out. They're about protecting your own peace and energy. A boundary can be as simple as deciding to dedicate one night a week to something that's just for you. Step 3. Prioritize your own needs. This is a big one. So often, we think taking care of ourselves means we're being selfish. But think of it like this: how can we show up for others if we're running on empty? When we prioritize our well-being, we're actually more available and present for the people who matter most. A friend of mine was a constant people-pleaser, and she never put herself first. Eventually, she hit rock bottom and realized she couldn't be the supportive friend, partner, or coworker she wanted to be because she was just too depleted. She started small, took a solo trip, picked up a hobby, learned to give herself some space. The more she valued her own feelings, the better she became at genuinely helping those around her. Step 4. Practice self-validation. Don't wait for others to validate your worth. Start giving yourself that pat on the back. Recognize your accomplishments, celebrate the small wins, and remember that your value doesn't depend on how much you can do for others. Here's the good news. You don't have to choose between being kind and taking care of yourself. You can serve others without draining yourself dry. It's all about balance. When we're honest, respectful, and true to ourselves, we're actually giving people the best version of us. And honestly, true kindness doesn't mean saying yes to everything. It means showing up as your authentic self, bringing genuine energy to your relationships, and giving from a place of abundance, not obligation. So, what if we start focusing on being true to ourselves instead of trying to meet everyone else's expectations? What if we allowed ourselves to be imperfect, to say no, to put our needs first sometimes? This is where we find true freedom. When we learn to let go of that need to please, we unlock the potential to create deeper, more genuine connections with others. There was a guy I read about who spent his whole life trying to be what everyone else wanted, until he finally said, "Enough." He started focusing on what made him happy, and surprisingly, his relationships didn't fall apart. In fact, they grew stronger because he was finally showing up as his real self. When he let go of people-pleasing, he found a new kind of peace, and that's what I wish for all of us. Breaking free from the people-pleasing trap isn't easy. But remember, you deserve to be as kind to yourself as you are to others. When you let go of the need to please, you're opening the door to more authentic relationships and a life that truly fulfills you. Alright, it's that people always asking time again where we wrap up with 5 of the most common questions I hear about people-pleasing. I know a lot of you are probably wondering how to actually apply this in real life, so let's dive in. Question 1. How do I stop being a people-pleaser? This is a big one. Stopping the cycle of people-pleasing starts with awareness. Start noticing when you're saying yes out of obligation instead of genuine desire. Then practice saying no in small ways to build up that muscle. It can feel uncomfortable at first, but the more you practice, the easier it gets. Remember, it's all about creating a balance between kindness to others and kindness to yourself. Question 2. What is the root cause of people-pleasing? Great question. People-pleasing usually stems from a fear of rejection, a desire for acceptance, or even past experiences where we learned that our worth was tied to making others happy. Maybe as kids, we got praised for being the nice one or were taught to avoid conflict. Over time, these habits build up and become a way of coping or finding a sense of identity. The good news is that with self-awareness and some inner work, you can start to untangle yourself from these patterns. Question 3. What is the opposite of a people-pleaser? Now, some might say the opposite is a people ignorer, but that's not really it. The opposite of a people-pleaser is someone who is assertive and self-respecting. They know how to set boundaries, say no when they need to, and make choices based on their values instead of just trying to please everyone. They're still compassionate and considerate, but they don't compromise their own well-being to keep others happy. Question 4. How to detach from people-pleasing? To detach from people-pleasing, start by focusing inward. Ask yourself, what do I really want in this situation? Or, how do I feel about this? It's about tuning into your needs and opinions before reacting to what others want. Journaling can really help here, too, because it lets you process your thoughts and build self-trust. The more connected you are with yourself, the easier it becomes to detach from that need to constantly seek approval. Question 5. Is there a cure for people-pleasing? Good news. Yes, there is. People-pleasing isn't some unbreakable trait. It's just a habit, and like any habit, it can be changed. The cure really comes from building self-awareness, setting boundaries, and developing confidence in your worth beyond what you can do for others. It's a journey, but I can tell you from experience, it's incredibly worth it. When you start putting yourself first, you find a new kind of freedom and a deeper, more authentic way to connect with others. So that's it. I hope these answers help you feel more empowered to break free from the people-pleasing trap. Remember, it's a journey. Take it one step at a time. And as always, you've got this. Thanks for watching. If this video resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up, share it with someone who might need to hear this, and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Make sure to look at this video on the screen that we just did titled, Fight Back: How to Beat Depression. Now go out there, be kind to yourself, and remember, it's okay to put yourself first. Love you. See you on the beaches of the world.
Finding my voice, setting myself free. No longer scared.
Hey y'all, hey. It's too early in the morning for this. But I just wanted to introduce this next video. This is part 2 to the people pleasing trap that I had did. I wanted to continue on this conversation with episode 2 of the people pleaser. And yeah, so of course, you know, I am trying out the new AI tool that I found. So it actually is pretty good, and they nailed it right on the head. So I don't know, guys. I don't know. This new AI tool is, I like it. It's very good, actually. You know, and it's got the default voice. Everybody is talking about, oh, people know about the whole, you know, that they know that's an AI. I'm telling you, it's AI, okay? But it's really good. It's really good, you know. And I put together a couple of YouTube videos that was talking about people pleasing. My video, and I think I did 5 videos actually, and they only really talked about 3 of the videos, mine and 2 of the other ones. And I'll link the other videos down in the description if you want to go and take a look at it. But it's really good, y'all. You gotta listen to it. Check this out.
Welcome to another deep dive, and today we're going to be talking about people pleasing. We've got 3 YouTube videos lined up, and we're going to try and get through all of them today.
It's pretty amazing how each of these YouTubers, with their very different approaches, all kind of converge on this common theme of people pleasing and that struggle.
Yeah, and you know, speaking of the YouTubers, we're going to hear from Liz, who calls herself an extreme people pleaser. She's got a really powerful story. We're going to be talking about Shonda, who calls people pleasing a trap. And then there's Julian, who leads this seminar where he really pushes people to drop the act and be real.
Julian's got a pretty interesting take. He ties people pleasing to anxiety.
Yeah, that's something we're definitely going to want to unpack a little bit later on in the deep dive. But, you know, Liz's story is a really powerful place to start. She talks about being bullied pretty relentlessly throughout her childhood.
And it really went beyond just teasing. Liz describes physical abuse and constant pressure to, do whatever it took to be liked.
Yeah. She talks about this one incident where some boys that were bullying her got another child to punch her in the face. And even after this, she didn't tell her parents.
Really highlights the extent of that people-pleasing tendency. Just heartbreaking.
Yeah, and she was already dealing with abuse at home. She felt like she couldn't add to the drama. So it's like, when does kindness become self-betrayal? And thankfully, Liz's sister comes into the picture, and she kind of becomes the catalyst for change in her life. Liz's sister actually found out about the bullying from an old classmate, and she confronted Liz about not telling her.
I mean, that must have been such a pivotal moment for her.
Yeah, it was. It was like this wake-up call. And Liz finally sought therapy, which she credits with helping her to understand that people-pleasing was not her true self. And it gave her some hope that she could rewrite these deeply ingrained patterns.
It's interesting because Shonda also talks about this rewriting patterns sort of thing. And she frames people-pleasing as this trap that we all fall into. We're constantly trying to please our parents, our employers, everyone.
And she calls out this false dichotomy that we're often presented with this idea that you're either selfish or you're a people pleaser.
Right. Like there's no middle ground,
Yeah, like there's no in between.
so you have to pick one or the other. But actually, she argues that that's damaging. And speaking from her own experience, she says that she's lost friends and family members because of people pleasing.
It's so interesting, her approach to kind of getting out of this trap, because she actually brings in ChatGPT to offer advice. I don't know if you've seen that.
I have not.
She calls him Chad. She's got ChatGPT and she calls him Chad. And she's like, "Chad, how do I get out of this people-pleasing trap?" I just thought it was such a clever way to kind of use AI and maybe get a fresh perspective on personal growth.
I can't wait to hear what Chad has to say.
Yeah. But before we get into that, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about Julian. He tackles people pleasing very directly in this seminar, pushing people to confront what he calls their fake fronts.
Yeah, he doesn't shy away from making people uncomfortable. He actually tells them to drop the act and be real.
Yeah.
He even goes as far to say that the day you're liked by everyone is the day you're the most fake person alive,
Wow.
which is a pretty big statement.
Yeah. Makes you think.
It does.
And he says that authenticity can be shocking and it might even repel some people. But ultimately, it's more fulfilling than living in what he calls a golden prison of trying to please everyone.
I love that phrase, that golden prison idea.
And one of the participants in Julian's seminar, Manu, he really brings this point home. He admits to feeling nervous and afraid that if he shows his true self, people will think that he's stupid.
Yeah.
So, you've got Liz, who doesn't fit in, and she feels like she's the weird one out. And then you've got Manu, who's afraid to show his true self because he thinks people will judge him.
Makes me think, is that really what people pleasing is all about? Just this disconnect from our authentic selves.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's why it leads to anxiety, which Julian brought up. Maybe it's that pressure of constantly performing and trying to be someone you're not.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So what does Chad have to say about escaping this people-pleasing trap?
Well, some of it was spot on, actually, like learning to say no.
Yeah, it seems like both Liz and Shonda really emphasize that.
Yeah, like Liz talks about how when somebody asks her to do something, even if she doesn't want to do it, she goes into this like trance mode.
Wow.
And she thinks it's rooted in her childhood and, not wanting to get in trouble.
It sounds like her nervous system is just wired for avoiding conflict.
Totally. And then, Shonda talks about spending years as a yes woman, always putting others first, but she realized it just wasn't sustainable.
And they both talk about, saying no without over-explaining.
Yeah.
Just setting that boundary.
Yeah. And Shonda also talks about protecting our time and energy.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Setting boundaries. Just not letting people take advantage.
Do you think that's tied to self-worth at all?
That's a good question. And Shonda would probably say yes. She says it's not selfish to prioritize your own needs. She says it's essential.
Yeah, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. Now, I think it's time to bring in Tam Carr.
Okay.
Because she talks about self-validation.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by her perspective. She really ties it back to self-love.
Yeah. She actually suggests a male detox to break free from seeking validation from men.
Yeah, that's something that I think a lot of people struggle with.
She says that men's tastes are very questionable, and I'm paraphrasing there, but that's essentially what she says. And she's like, why are we letting that be the foundation of our self-worth?
Yeah.
So she's like, put yourself on a pedestal, affirm your own worth, and affirm your own beauty.
I love how direct she is.
Yeah. And she talks about how she used to water down her personality. She would bend over backwards. But she realized it only took her further away from her true self.
Right. And it makes me think back to that golden prison idea.
Yeah.
Are we trapping ourselves by trying to please everyone?
Totally.
Yeah.
And Tam also talks about the importance of having high standards, not just in romantic relationships, but in friendships as well.
That's huge. The people we surround ourselves with.
Yeah. And she's like, stop giving a beep.
Love it.
Yeah. She's like, stop caring so much about what other people think.
Focus on what matters.
And she says everything is temporary. One person's disapproval is just a blip on the radar.
So true.
And she says to focus on your personal growth, pursue your passions.
Because when we're engaged with what lights us up,
We're not seeking it externally.
yeah. And she normalizes rejection,
Yeah.
which is interesting. She says, it's actually good that not everyone likes us.
I never thought of it that way.
Keeps the energy vampires away, right?
Okay.
Like filtering out the noise.
And then she brings up this concept of self-schema,
Okay.
which is essentially how we define ourselves, our self-image.
Gotcha.
And she says to build a positive self-schema by identifying your favorite parts about yourself And then challenging the negative beliefs that you might be holding on to.
Reframing that narrative.
And she gives this great example. You've got two women who both believe they're unattractive. One of them lets that belief run her whole life. The other decides to challenge that belief. So she experiments with her appearance, does a photo shoot, and she ends up seeing herself in a whole new light.
It really shows how much power we have to shape our self-perception.
Yeah. And, she talks about becoming your own source of validation.
Which ultimately, I think it all comes down to that, doesn't it?
It does. And she says, look, you are the only one who truly knows you, inside and out.
So we're the only ones who can accurately validate ourselves.
Exactly. And she talks about emotional validation, especially when you're going through something, instead of running to somebody else for validation, she says to journal, record a video, to process your emotions.
Yeah. Be your own best friend in those moments.
And she gives examples of what to say, I see you, I accept you, it makes sense why you're upset, you're not overreacting.
Yeah, that's really good.
And then finally, she says to see yourself as you are now.
Okay.
Not through the lens of your past mistakes, not through the lens of your insecurities. She says, wake up every morning like it's the first day of your life.
It's such a powerful reframing.
It really is.
It's like hitting the reset button.
It is. So what does all of this tell us?
Well, I think the common thread that runs through all three of these YouTubers is that people-pleasing stems from this lack of self-love.
Yeah. And that when we learn to validate ourselves and prioritize our needs, we can break free.
Yeah, recognize our worth and embrace our authenticity.
Which brings us back to Julian's statement. The day you're liked by everyone is the day you're the most fake person alive.
It is a bold statement, but it makes you think.
It does. And in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to be exploring what it actually looks like to shed those fake fronts.
And unpack that connection between people-pleasing and anxiety.
Yes. Okay, so we've talked about the roots of people-pleasing. We've heard some pretty compelling arguments for embracing authenticity. But what does it actually look like to, break free from this pattern, to shed those fake fronts that Julian's always talking about?
Yeah, it's definitely a journey. And I think it starts with self-awareness, right? Like identifying the masks we wear and understanding why we wear them. Who are we trying to please? Is it our parents, our boss, societal expectations?
It's almost like uncovering the subconscious scripts that are running the show.
Yeah, exactly. And then once we understand that, we can start to challenge those patterns.
Yeah.
And that might involve having some uncomfortable conversations, setting boundaries, communicating our needs more assertively.
This makes me think about what Shonda said about that false dichotomy of being selfish versus being a people pleaser.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost like we're afraid that if we assert our needs, then we're automatically like a bad person.
It's a common fear.
Yeah.
But what if true kindness actually comes from a place of wholeness, and self-acceptance instead of a need for approval?
It's a good point. So it's not about being less kind. It's about being more authentically ourselves.
Exactly.
But that can feel scary. Like, what about those fears that Manu expressed in Julian's seminar?
Right.
That fear of being seen as stupid or unworthy if we show our true selves.
Yeah, those fears are definitely understandable. We've been conditioned to believe that our true selves aren't good enough. But what if that's actually what's holding us back from experiencing true connection?
Right. And it goes back to what Tam was talking about with self-validation.
Exactly.
If we're constantly looking for validation from external sources, it's probably because we haven't fully accepted ourselves.
Yeah.
And so that's where the work begins, right?
Yeah.
Building a positive self-schema like Tam suggests. Recognizing our strengths, challenging those negative beliefs, offering ourselves the same kindness and compassion that we would offer to a loved one.
Yeah, it's like becoming our own best friend.
Our own cheerleader.
Exactly.
And, it's important to remember that it's a journey. It's not like we just wake up one day and we're completely self-validated and we never people please again.
Definitely. There are going to be setbacks. There are going to be times when we doubt ourselves.
Absolutely. But the more we practice, the more natural it will become.
And the more we'll attract people who genuinely resonate with who we are.
And going back to what Tam said, it's good that not everyone likes us.
Right?
It really does make space for those deeper connections with the people that do.
It filters out the noise.
Okay, so let's circle back to what Julian said about people-pleasing and anxiety. Why do you think those two things are so connected?
Well, I think people-pleasing creates this tension inside of us. Because we're essentially living a double life. We're presenting this version of ourselves that we think is acceptable while hiding our true thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, no wonder it leads to anxiety. We're constantly worried about being found out.
Exactly. But imagine the freedom that comes from just dropping the act.
Right. Just being ourselves, even if it means not being liked by everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
It's powerful. So, what do you think a world would look like if everyone felt safe to be their authentic selves?
Well, I think it'd be a world with a lot more compassion and understanding, where we wouldn't be so quick to judge or criticize.
That's beautiful.
Because we would all just recognize that everyone's on their own unique journey.
Yeah. And what if each of us could contribute to creating that
Been
world?
too long
Absolutely.
chasing what
Starting with
they
ourselves.
need.
By shedding our own fake fronts,
Yeah.
giving other
Lost
people
myself
permission.
in the shadows of
So, to wrap up this
greed.
deep dive into people pleasing, I want to leave our listeners
Every
with this
yes
thought.
took a piece of
What
me
if the key
away.
to overcoming people pleasing isn't about being less kind or less helpful, but about being more
Finally
authentically ourselves?
What if true kindness
No
comes
more
from self-love?
betting, no more hiding. This is my
And
truth,
what if,
and I'm
by letting go of
deciding.
that
I'm finding
need to
my
please everyone,
voice,
we actually
breaking
unlock
through the noise. No more living
I think it's
for the
something worth thinking
dreams.
about.
I'm learning what my freedom means.
Guys, until next time.
I'll set my boundaries, take my space, love myself and embrace the grace. This is my life, my choice, and now I'm living with my own voice. Their approval was a cage I couldn't see, locked away the person I could be. But now I'm done with the guilt and the shame. This heart is mine, and I'm staking my claim. Oh, oh, no more betting, no more hiding. This is my truth, and I'm deciding. I'm finding my own voice, breaking through the noise. No more living for the dreams. I'm learning what my freedom means. I'll set my boundaries, take my space, love myself and embrace the grace. This is my life, my choice, and now I'm living with my own voice. Not selfish to choose my way, put myself first every day. Helping others starts with me. A heart unchained is truly free. My own voice breaking through the noise. No more living for the dreams. I'm learning what my freedom means.